Hello. What's going on, everybody? Hey, it's Mistress Carrie, and I'm here in the war room. I call this room in my house the war room because it is filled with cool memorabilia and stuff that I brought back from my trips overseas, things my family members have collected from their military service over the years, and things that my friends have kind of donated to the cause in the room. So every weeknight at 8:30, we get together and we have a cocktail together, and this is how we decompress after a very long and stressful day in these times. So I want to thank you for joining me every weeknight at 8:30. Tonight, normally I have my Moscow Mule with my copper mug, but let me prop this phone up here. But tonight, because we all know now that the stay-home order has been issued and that we're all going to be getting really comfortable for a while, I thought I would ration my ginger beer and ration the vodka and the limes. Hope I don't knock my eye out. Here we go. Yeah! So tonight, we're going to have a little mimosa because, well, we're not going anywhere for a while, so we might as well make a party out of it. And I don't have anywhere to go, so cheers. That's more like it. All right. How are you guys holding up today? Thank you guys for yesterday. I know we were all laughing about my crazy bunny costume, but yesterday kind of sucked. Today was a lot better. I got a pretty decent night's sleep and obviously woke up to the stay-at-home order that was issued by the governor today, which starts tomorrow at noon. It's a stay-at-home order that goes from March 24th until April 7th, which is why I popped open a bottle of Prosecco because, well, I'm not going to be going anywhere for a while. Just to clarify, the stay-home order does not affect healthcare workers, first responders, food and agriculture, critical manufacturing, transportation, energy, public works, communication and IT, finance, defense, chemical and hazmat, government, and the news media. And from the extensive research I did today, the Packies are going to be open. So there you go. However, I was told that medical marijuana will be made available. However, the dispensaries for recreational use are not going to be. So you may want to double check the dispensary in your area, because otherwise I believe they have to close by tomorrow at noon. So you want to make sure that you're stocking up. Cheers. Also, cheers to Stephen Gostkowski, who it was announced was released from the Patriots after 14 seasons with the Patriots. So thank you very much for your fantastic foot over the years. So cheers to him. Now, if you're wondering whether or not you're supposed to be working, obviously check with your employer. That was just part of the press release that I read from the State House today about who was supposed to be working and who wasn't, starting tomorrow at noon. Today and all month long is TBI Awareness Month, and a lot of people had been commenting on my live videos that I should acknowledge that as well. So to everyone that has had a traumatic brain injury, especially in times like this, very stressful times, very isolating times, things can be extremely difficult. So there are a lot of resources out there for you, and there are a lot of people who love you and that want to help you. So if you are battling the effects of a traumatic brain injury, we all love you, and we want you to get all of the help that you need. Today is also National Puppy Day. And so I want to remind you once again that a lot of the animal shelters, while not open for the public, are open by appointment if you are looking to go and adopt a new family member, which might be a nice thing right now. And yes, Wednesday, a lot of people asking, Wednesday is unconscious and snoring in the other room. She was out running around in the snow earlier, and she is asked out, so she's in there. Today is also Rick Ocasek's birthday, so local rock legend, cheers to him. All right, so a lot of other stuff I wanted to talk to you about. Don't forget that they are in critical need of blood supplies, but you have to make an appointment. You can't just show up someplace to donate blood because they will turn you away because of all the safety precautions that they have to take. So if you can find a local donation site, you can go right on the Red Cross website, make an appointment to give blood. They are at critical needs. So if you... I'm sure that falls under the stay home order, and if you are going to donate blood, I'm sure no one is going to bust your balls about that. So please, if you're healthy and if you're able to donate, please go and make an appointment with the Red Cross and go and donate. And also, thank you to everybody that is not only donating PPE, personal protective equipment, which is what it stands for, donating it from their job sites and their places of work that are all shut down because of the coronavirus, and also to everybody that is sewing all of the surgical masks at home and donating it to all of the healthcare workers. You guys are heroes, and that is amazing. Speaking of healthcare workers, I wore this shirt tonight as we're sitting here in the war room. This right here is some of the medics that I flew with in Iraq in 2006. And so I want to say what's up to the Dust Off guys and to the Bo Sox guys. A lot of those National Guard medics come home and work as EMTs, paramedics, law enforcement, firefighters, have gone to medical school or are in some way, shape, or form in the medical field. And they are all the ones that not only were on the front lines when they were deployed as part of the military, but now they're on the front lines working for all of us in the hospitals, treating all of these patients. So I want to say what's up to those guys. Speaking of veterans, I wanted to pass this along. It's completely unrelated, but I know that at times like this, you're looking for good news and looking for things to make you smile. I have a really good friend of mine named Jay, who is a veteran of both the Army and the Marine Corps, and he is a cancer survivor. And he and I met years ago because we skydived together. And he got really into climbing mountains. And when he went and climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, he just fell in love with that region of the world and with the people, and has since made trips back and spent so much time there. And recently he raised the money and bought an old hotel and turned it into an orphanage. And they just launched their website. And so I wanted to give Jay a shout out because he has been working tirelessly trying to help these kids. And so if you go to helpcoco.org, HELPCOKO.org, COCO stands for Children of Kilimanjaro Orphanage. And this is one of our veterans that is just doing amazing stuff. Just trying to give back. And so if you go to helpcoco.org, you can see the construction of the orphanage and some of the kids that they're trying to help out. And I just thought it was just an amazing thing that while everything is so uncertain and crazy, I just thought it was a really uplifting and amazing story to pass along and to, you know, try and get the word out there that his website is up. They're going to be collecting donations, and you know, he's just doing this just because he's an awesome guy. So go to helpcoco.org and check that out. All right. One of the things on a completely opposite end of the spectrum, the entire porn industry has been put out of work, and most of the strip joints are closed too. And so that is making, well, very business focused working men and women have to be very imaginative and ingenious. So in some places, there are exotic dancers that are now delivering your takeout. They have had car washes, but the whole porn industry is shut down. So just know this, everything you're watching now is a rerun. But I believe there's like 625 years of porn on Pornhub alone. So I'm sure you guys are going to be fine. I got asked by a guy named Peter Kramer, what the best Tool song was for depression. And I started thinking about it because they're one of my favorite bands. We talked about it in our Lucky 7 conversation a few nights ago about the 7 albums that kind of changed your life. I put Anima from Tool on mine. But I started thinking about it. I've talked about it many times. Opiate, my favorite Tool song of all time. I also absolutely love their No Quarter cover, which is just fantastic. If you haven't heard it, it's awesome. But I think in trying times like this, any song other than Anima right now from Tool doesn't make any sense. And I'm sure somewhere Maynard James Keenan is trying to not pay too close attention to the irony. Yes, there are cherries at the bottom of my mimosa. Don't judge me. I'm locked in the house by myself. I gotta have a little joy here and there. I want to say hi to Tom. His lovely bride, Carolyn, checked in on Twitter. Tom is a disabled veteran that is at home and has become a new fan. So even though I was on the air for 22 years, now that I'm getting drunk every night in my war room by myself with you live on Facebook, I got myself a new fan. So I want to say what's up to Tom. Okay, so I got a couple of tips, shut-in tips and just kind of hygiene tips that I wanted to pass along. Somebody shared a meme, and I thought this was ingenious, that there are parents that are making their kids who are now kind of locked in the house earn Monopoly money for doing chores, and to control the amount of snacks that they're eating, they have set up a little snack store, and so your kids can earn more Monopoly money that they can then turn into buying snacks from your online snack store by doing stuff around the house. And I thought it was ingenious. Wednesday is not going to do anything to earn herself Monopoly money around here. She gets cookies basically just for being cute. But I thought it was a really hilarious way. And if it's something that, you know, you're looking to keep your kids occupied, you can make a little list of all the chores you want them to do and the dollar amount in Monopoly money. And then you can set up a little store in your pantry or whatever, and they can buy snacks from you throughout the day. So I thought it was awesome and wanted to pass that along. And then this I got from one of my AAF to Afghanistan buddies. He keeps Q-tips in his pocket. And when he goes out and uses like his debit card or whatever, wherever he needs to go, you know, you always got to put the code in, or when you're at the gas station and you're using your card, he uses Q-tips to push the buttons so that you don't have to touch the keypads, because God only knows how often they're cleaning those things. Of course, that is also going to tell you when you're buying cheap Q-tips, because the cheap ones bend in the middle. So you want to get the good ones. But I thought that was a really smart thing to have a little baggie of Q-tips that you either keep in the car, in the cup holder, or put it in your pocket, just to have a way to kind of push buttons when you're out in public if you're not able to get your hands on rubber gloves and whatever. So I thought that was a really cool idea. So there you go. I'm trying to pass along stuff. One of the other things that we joked about last night was the idea of being quarantined in the house with a bartender and how awesome that would be. So here in the war room, this is where I keep all of my booze. And one of the things that I've collected over the years is bartending books. Even though I suck at making drinks, you just watched me make a pathetic mimosa about 10 minutes ago. Cheers, by the way. So what I thought would be fun, since you guys are probably going to start running out of booze, is open the bartending book and just a random page and see if we can all learn new drinks. Oh, this sounds good. The Jacuzzi. A 1 ounce serving of gin, 2/3 of an ounce of peach schnapps, and an ounce of fresh orange juice. See, now if I had read this 15 minutes ago, I wouldn't just be having a dumb mimosa. I could be having a jacuzzi. So, feel free to chime in on the comments with drink recipes. All right, let's do one more, and then I got a story that I want to tell you. What's this one? Oh, those are tasting notes. I don't need to know how it tastes. I just need to know what's in it. The 19, 2 ounces of dry vermouth, a 1/2 ounce of Kirsch, a 1/2 ounce of gin, 2 dashes of bitters, and a 1/2 ounce of, is it Gomi syrup? I don't even know what the hell that is. I'm not smart enough to read this book. Shake the ingredients, strain into a martini glass, and serve. That's the 19. So there you go. Okay. So I promised you when I started making these videos that I would kind of give you tours of the war room and kind of show you some of the stuff that was in here. And the other night I forgot to do it, so I owe you one. So tonight you get 2 things that are in the war room. The first one is something that I talked about on the Breaking the Ice podcast with Isaiah and Josh and Mike Shue. This is a bottle of booze. I like to bring booze back when I travel. This is a bottle of booze that I bought in South Africa. God, it was almost 7 years ago that I was there now. And I thought it was awesome. This is marula flavored. And I brought it home because the bottle of booze actually came wrapped in barbed wire. I had never seen anything like it before. Somehow I got it through customs, and I haven't opened it yet because I just haven't wanted to break the seal on it yet. But I thought it was really cool. I brought it home from South Africa. I've never seen booze wrapped in barbed wire before. And I thought it was a perfect addition to the war room. The more serious thing, and I know Mike, who went to Afghanistan with me, my producer, is watching this video because it popped up that he was watching. So I want to say hi to all of you guys. The other thing that I wanted to show you comes with a long-winded story, if you'll indulge me a little bit. I mean, seriously, where the hell else do we have to go? But I wanted to tell you this story because it kind of has a reason behind it. So I'll show you the object first, and then I will tell you the story. So this is my little phone. It's a little Samsung phone. It's covered with probably bits of Kabul still. But I wanted to tell you the story about this phone because it's a story about how things that you might think are frivolous and irrelevant can change your life. So when Mike and I landed in Afghanistan, obviously, now this was in 2011, and we landed, and all of the guys we were embedded with from the Mass Army National Guard picked us up at the Kabul International Airport, and we flew in from Boston. So we just flew commercial, and we flew from Boston to London, and then London to Bahrain, and then Bahrain into Kabul, just the two of us. And then once we went through immigration and customs and everything by ourselves, which, by the way, is a little scary, we went outside, and after discovering for 45 minutes that my luggage didn't make the flight from London because of the way my body armor was packed in it, and so I had no luggage for almost 3 days. So I had to go shopping for underwear at the PX in Kabul. Totally other story. So we go outside, and we meet up with all of the guys that, yes, I still have a flip phone. I'm telling you the story, Pat, about why I have it. So we get matched up with the guys we're going to be embedded with in Kabul, and they take us back to Camp Phoenix, which was the base where we were going to be based out of for like 2.5 or 3 weeks while we were there. And we had all of our computer equipment to be able to broadcast live from over there and be able to put up pictures and blog. And we also had a very expensive satellite phone, and the minutes were like $2.50 a minute. And we got sponsors to pay for the satellite phone minutes so that we could call not only the radio station, but also our loved ones, to let them know that we were doing okay. But also we got extra minutes that the advertisers paid for so that the guys we were embedded with could go and make private phone calls with their loved ones. Because, privacy was not a thing you got a lot of over there. So once we got over there and kind of unpacked everything, great band name, Bits of Kabul. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. To take after Mike Shu's Twitter feed, I believe they're playing the Middle East Upstairs. If you haven't watched Mike Shu's Twitter feed, by the way, it's amazing. He is turning things that his wife says into band names and deciding whether or not they're playing upstairs or downstairs at the Middle East. You follow Mike Shu on Twitter because he's friggin' hilarious. So anyway, once we unpacked everything at Camp Phoenix and we went through kind of our orientation and figured out where we were going to be staying and what unit we were going to be embedded with, the guys, and my bodyguard Nick specifically, which I think he might be watching too, hi Nick, brought me this phone. And they bought it over there, and it was just a flip phone that someone living in Afghanistan could buy, and you put little chips in the bottom of it that restricted how many minutes that you had paid for. Rather than getting a cell phone bill, you buy a disposable chip, and it gives you a certain amount of life on your cell phone. And I laughed at the notion that he was giving me this little stupid Samsung flip phone, and they had put in as speed dial all of the phone numbers in an emergency that they thought we might need. The numbers to the U.S. Embassy, the emergency numbers to some of the communications offices on base, and then some of the other guys that had bought these little flip phones just so that if we needed anything in the middle of the night, no matter where we were, that at least they knew that we could make phone calls in an emergency. And they made me promise that I wouldn't be separated from it. So I carried it with me everywhere. And we really didn't need to use it other than, a few times if we were at the chow hall early in the morning to eat breakfast before we were going out for the day. We would use it to wake people up. And I know my producer, Mike, had to wake me up a couple times because we were working on Boston time in Kabul, but still working on Boston time, but functioning with the military on Afghanistan time. So every once in a while we make a phone call on it, but for the most part, it just sat in my, the pouch of my body armor until the day came for us to leave. So you need to imagine that there's me and Mike, my producer, and we've been in Afghanistan going out on missions embedded with the guys from the Mass Army National Guard for almost 3 weeks. And now it's time for them to bring us back to Kabul International Airport so that we can fly back to Boston. And at that time, the U.S. military wasn't allowed on the grounds of the Kabul airport unless they took their weapons off. So obviously, our guys weren't going to take their guns off. So we had to say goodbye to our military escorts outside the gate of the airport and go into the airport alone and unarmed. And a lot of people have asked me over the years about my trips overseas and asked me what the scariest things were. And I will tell you, hands down, it was being at the airport because we were alone and we didn't have security with us. And, I felt safer out on the road in Afghanistan in a convoy with our guys than I did being at the airport. No disrespect to Mike, my producer, but it was freaky being in the airport alone. So Mike and I say goodbye to all of our guys. And of course, I'm bawling my eyes out because, well, you heard the last couple days on the air at AAF, I cry a lot. And we went inside and we checked our luggage, which had to be wrapped in saran wrap in order to get it home, which was weird. And then we went to go through immigration. We had our passports and our visas and all of that stuff. And we're standing in line at the airport, and we were kind of late getting to the airport because, well, traffic in Afghanistan blows. And so we were rushing and trying to get through, and we got the luggage taken care of, and the guy behind the counter giving us our tickets kind of scolded us because we were running a little bit late. And when we were going through the immigration line, we kept waiting in all of these open lines, waiting. And every time we got up to the front, somebody would get on a radio and kick us out of line and kick us to the back of another line. And we're watching our watches and we're waiting for, our flight is getting ready to leave. And so then my little flip phone starts ringing, and it's the guys outside because the convoy, the platoon that we were with, wouldn't leave until this was their instruction, until you're on the plane and they've security locked the plane door. They said, we're going to sit out here with the engines idling, waiting because they could not go on airport property. So now the guys are starting to call, and they're starting to panic because we haven't called saying that we're safe on the plane yet. And we were like, no, we're still in line at immigration, and they keep kicking us out of line, and we don't know what's going on. Now, I should also mention that when I landed in Kabul, I was completely covered and had wrapped my hair. But when we were in such a rush to get back to the airport to come home, that I had checked my headscarf and my long sleeve shirt in my checked bags. So I had no way to cover my hair. So I need you to imagine me in a short sleeve t-shirt and bright purple ass hair standing in the airport in Afghanistan with Mike, my producer. Not a good look, just in case you were wondering. And so the guys that we were embedded with started to panic because they didn't want us to miss our flight. And every time I was on the phone and we would get up to the little immigration house and they would say, no, go to that other line, go to that other line. And now the airline workers that were actually working for the plane that we were supposed to be getting on are now on the other side of the immigration checkpoint, and they're looking at their watches and they're on a walkie-talkie and they're pointing at me and my producer. And we are starting to shit our pants because we're like, we can't miss our flight. All of our luggage is now packed. All our safety equipment is packed on the plane. We're separated from our military escorts, and it's just the two of us in the airport. And we have nothing but this phone. And they're trying to radio people to get us through. And so the next time we got up to the front of the line, the guys that we were embedded with said, leave the phone open and on, and we're going to put one of the terps, one of the interpreters, on the phone and kind of ease the phone towards the guy that's talking to you so that our guys can hear what the people at the airport were saying behind our back, because we couldn't understand them because we don't speak Arabic, because they were worried that something fishy was going on. And so I kept this little cheap ass phone that I thought was frivolous leaning forward, and the terps on the other end of the phone trying to listen to what's going on. We're already, I think, 25 minutes late for our flight, and they are literally holding the plane for us. When we finally get through the immigration checkpoint, and the guy did not look happy about letting us go, but the airline worker was begging, and we have no idea what they were saying. So then we had to go through one final metal detector and, you know, the security screener like you do at TSA at Logan. And we had to take everything off. Shoes, any metal. So all I could think of was, okay, if we need to run quickly, what do I 100% need? So I took my boots off. I took the jewelry that I was wearing that meant anything. I took all of my military paperwork. I took this phone because I couldn't keep it in my hand. And I took my passport and everything, and I put it in my boots. And then I checked the computer equipment and the cameras and everything else to go through the conveyor belt. But I thought at the very last minute, if all I can do is grab my boots, everything that I need to prove that it's me that will get me back into the United States is in my boots. And the conveyor belt is just taking forever. And I have no money on me, no documents. I have no nothing. And it was the longest minute and a half of my life waiting for the stuff to go through the screener. And finally it comes through. I grab my boots. I grab the bag that had the computer and the cameras in it. And the airline worker just looked at me and said, "Run, miss, run." And now I'm on the other side. And we run. We get on the plane. They had no place to sit us because we were obviously late. So they just threw us in the first two first class seats. And they said, "Put your seatbelt on." And so I'm now saying goodbye to the guys, and they're like, "Are you on the plane?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm on the plane." And they're like, "Is the door closed?" And I'm like, "No, the door is not closed yet." And they go and they close the airline door, which then they're not allowed to open it again. And I'm looking at my producer, and he's looking at me, and we don't know what the hell is going on. And the guys, all they said was, "We love you. Get the fuck out of here." And all of a sudden, the flight attendant walked over with a hot towel and says, "Would you like a drink?" And I'm like, what? She hands us a steamed hot towel. And I remember putting it on my face and wiping my face. And it looked like the Shroud of Turin. There was so much filth from Afghanistan on my face that I just wiped it off. And it was just covered with dirt. And then she walked over with screwdrivers and handed me and my producer Mike screwdrivers. And we just laughed. Like the laughing through tears. Like when someone tells a really funny joke at a funeral and you know you shouldn't be laughing, but you can't help it anyway because you're so sad and upset that it just comes out as laughter. And then Mike was sitting on the window seat, just went like this and said, "Fuck you, Afghanistan, we're out of here." And then we pulled away from the gate. We told the guys that we loved them. And 2 hours later, we were sitting in an Irish pub in the Bahrainian airport. And as soon as we got off the plane, there was an electronics store that was blaring Linkin Park at the airport. So I tell you this long-winded story, which I know my phone was freezing again, but you can go back and watch the video later. I tell you this long-winded story because you might think that something is frivolous and meaningless and disposable and stupid, like I thought this phone was. And this phone actually stood between me and getting out of a war zone safely, and I kept it because it means the world to me. And it's one of the things that I have on the shelf in my war room because, well, not only did my guys buy it for me, but it reminds me of that day. And, we've told that story a bunch of times, and I've been asked to go and give speeches and talk about our amazing veterans. And the awesome stuff that they do. And it's always a story I bring up because you just never know what tomorrow could bring, and you never know what something small and insignificant could mean in the grand scheme of your life. And I thought today, as we're getting the stay-at-home order and we know we're going to be in our houses at least until April 7th, that you might think that you're doing things that seem frivolous and you're doing things that really don't mean that much. But the fact that you're just staying at home, Netflix and chilling, means a lot in the grand scheme of things. So there you go. There's my story. On a lighter note, before I let you go, can we all agree that when this is all over and we can all go out and we can all go and get drunk, that we will come up with a really appropriate social meaning for Dr. Fauci? Like, we need to come up with something cool, because that guy is an absolute badass. And so when you say something like, hey, you want to come over and Fauci and chill? Like, don't we need to give Dr. Fauci something awesome? We need to make Fauci mean something badass. So if you have suggestions on something respectful, something that is worthy of the amazing guy that Dr. Fauci is, that's calming all of our nerves and giving us amazing information about the coronavirus and everything that's going on, we need to turn Dr. Fauci's name into something that is absolutely badass. Or a band name for a band that will make it to play downstairs at the Middle East. Dr. Fauci, you're the bomb. So thank you for indulging me in my longest cocktails in the war room to date. But I really wanted to tell you guys that story and to kind of show you some of the things that are in my war room, and to remind you that we're all in this together. I love you guys. You guys are the best. We are doing the right thing by staying home, listening to the medical providers and all of our caregivers, all of the nurses, just everybody that is out there working while the rest of us are hanging out in our respective war rooms, having cocktails. You guys are amazing. Thank you for joining me in the War Room every weeknight at 8:30, Facebook Live. You can also follow me on Twitter, where I put a lot of links to real information, at Mistress Carrie on Twitter and at Mistress Carrie WAF on Instagram. So I love you guys. Keep calm and Fauci on. I'm telling you, we got to come up with a cool name for that. Oh, I got to the cherries. See you guys tomorrow. I love you.